Okay, I'll tell you what I'm confused about. Why is a team that just made the playoffs a few short months ago putting nearly every single player on their roster on the trading block? That would be the Miami Marlins.
I think you already know the answer to your question. I mean, this is a franchise that since they birthed in the mid-90s has always done this. This is what they do. This is how they exist. They're the Oakland A's with nicer weather.
You're not totally wrong. I'm not going to say they're the current iteration of the Oakland A's, but if you think of the way the A's have been structured until 2022, when they were competitive and in wild card hunts with teams featuring players that were not on crazy expensive deals yet, that were still really good. Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, guys like that, as recently as the late 2010s and early 2020s. Yeah, it's kind of what the Marlins are. They've got some good players on their roster. They had good guys on the roster last year. They just never seem to keep any of them around. And what report came out this week? It was reported the Marlins are willing to listen to offers on every guy on their team except for Yuri Perez. Yuri Perez, 21-year-old starter, right-hander. He's absolutely electric. I wouldn't trade him either if I were them. But everybody else, they said they will at least listen to offers. And that includes Mr. Batting Champion himself, Luis Arraez.
How do you not, if you're the Mariners, pick up the phone and make a call to the Miami Marlins for Luis Arraez? How do you not, if he's available? Why not? You can give the Marlins back exactly what they lost trading for him last season. You want a starter? Okay, we'll give you a starter for 2 years of Luis Arraez. Check. It's 2? Yeah. Does he have 2 years? Yeah, it's 2 years. Cool. 2 years of Luis Arraez, sold. All right, we'll give you a starter. You guys traded Pablo Lopez last season. He was amazing for the Twins. You really could have used him in your rotation last year. Well, okay. We'll give you one back. You can have 6 years of control of someone if that's what the price is. It could be less, but they did have to give up a haul to get him in the first place. I mean, Pablo Lopez he had 4 seasons. He had pitched in parts of 4 seasons before the Marlins traded him. Like that's a pretty significant price of not only a young pitcher, but a young proven pitcher as well for Luis Arraez. And it turned out to work out great because Luis Arraez was awesome for the Marlins last season. It makes too much sense. It solves so many issues for the Mariners offseason if you put Luis Arraez in this lineup. If you pencil Luis Arraez into that number 1 spot, everyone's happy.
Does that all of a sudden mean they could still go sign Blake Snell too, where you trade one of the young arms, get Arraez, and replace him with Snell?
So how would the finances work out with that? So Luis Arraez is going to make
about $11 million this year.
$11 million this year. It's going to go up to about 20 next year in his final year of arbitration, give or take. That's about the escalation it goes up in arbitration.
Nobody's saying what payroll is going to be next year. We're talking about this year. So next year, maybe it goes up.
I think we have a pretty good idea what payroll is going to be next year.
I know. I can't even say that with a straight face. Sorry.
So so you're giving up a league minimum contract for an $11 million contract. So that would put you at $129 million with let's say 145 cap. That gives you $16 million more. So Blake Snell, probably not. Probably not. But you do have some depth at that point, though, with Anthony DeSclafani and Austin Voth.
So let's do it. Okay, let's do this again. Trade for Arraez. Get rid of DeSclafani, like we said on the last episode. Say, whoever trades for him, we don't want anything back. You can just take him if you take on most of the money, even if it's not all $12 million or whatever. Is it 12 or 13?
12.
Okay, so if you take on 9 or 10 million of that deal, you can just have him. And then they sign Blake Snell that way. How about that as a couple of roster moves?
I kind of like that. Because it would be essentially cash neutral if you traded for Arraez and traded DeSclafani away. Now you'd have to find a suitor, and some people left a note in our comments on YouTube. I do think if you traded DeSclafani, you might have to throw a prospect in there to get them to take on some of that money. It wouldn't have to be a blue chip prospect. It would not have to be any of your shortstop prospects, but you would have to throw somebody in there to make it worth their time.
Okay, so off the top of my head, Alberto Rodriguez.
Someone from 8 to 15.
Okay, yeah. Well, that would still be worth it, especially if you were going to get Luis Arraez and Blake Snell. So I would do that. I think if I were the Mariners, well, first off, you have to at least call. And if you're the Mariners, what are you still looking at? What did Justin Hollander say? We still need to add an infielder. If that infielder's added, we know it's either going to be a second baseman or a third baseman. Those are the weak links right now. And if it's a second baseman, then Rojas and Urias platoon at third base, a spot where they've both played plenty of. What does Luis Arraez do? He plays second base. So that makes a lot of sense. I would pick up the phone if I were the Mariners, see what they're looking for. And if it costs a young starter, if you've still got a real chance to get Blake Snell, we're going to do it again, TJ. I've just decided on the fly. We're doing another hypothetical lineup here on this podcast. So how do you like a lineup of Luis Arraez at 1, Julio at 2? This gets a little interesting because JP is going to have to hit somewhere else. But Julio at 2, you have Cal at 3, Garver at 4. I'll say Rayleigh at 5, JP at 6, something like that. Maybe JP at 5, Rayleigh at 6. Then you have...
Do you hit JP higher?
Well, but he's not like a power guy. I mean, I guess WRC Plus says otherwise. Do you need to be a
power hitter?
Yeah, I guess not. I mean, WRC Plus says otherwise, right? Okay. Let's scrap that. Do this again. Arraez at 1, JP at 2.
Sure.
Julio at 3, Cal at 4, Garver at 5, Rayleigh at 6, Ty at 7. Rojas or Urias would hit 9th. Oh, and then Mitch Haniger would hit 8th. Mitch or Dom Canzone.
I like it.
I kind of like that lineup.
Kind of like it.
I like that lineup a lot. Wait, did I get all the outfielders in that? Because I had Julio in there. I had Mitch in there. Did I get all the outfielders? Or am I missing a spot? So. Yeah, maybe
Julio?
I did.
Julio, Mitch.
Yeah.
Rayleigh.
Oh, Rayleigh. Right. Okay, we got it. Yeah. I like that lineup a lot. I got to be honest with you. JP WRC plus over 130 last year. There's no reason he can't hit in the 2 spot of a lineup. Just because he doesn't hit a ton of home runs like some other guys do doesn't mean he's not an impactful hitter. That's the great thing about modern baseball nowadays. So you want to hit Arraez at 1, JP at 2, Julio at 3. Yeah, sign me up for that.
Just think of the ultimate combination there at the top. Luis Arraez is not a guy who's going to walk a lot. But the thing is, he balances a 5% walk rate, also with a 5% strikeout rate, an extreme contact rate. This dude makes so much contact. You might look, oh, well, TJ doesn't really hit the ball that hard. He doesn't need to, because you don't need to hit the ball the hardest. You just need to hit it in the right spots. We're talking about perfect combination of exit velocity and launch angle and direction. Luis Arraez has that down. Oh, you want a ball hit over the shortstop's head? Done. You want a ball grounded up the middle? Done. You want a ball tucked down the right field line? Done. Yep, got that. That's fine. And then right in front of JP and his improved power stroke. And then, well, do we even need to say anything about Julio, Cal, and Mitch? Sure. There we go. That works. Table setters. We have a table setter with the bat, table setter with the eye, and then masher. Run producing bunch right there.
That sounds great. And just to clarify, TJ means Mitch Garver. Yeah, that's going to be a struggle for everybody this year to just separate Haniger and Garver, because everybody's just used to calling Mitch Haniger Mitch. Anyway, Luis Arraez was so built to play 40 years ago. I almost think it's hilarious he's playing in today's day and age and thriving, because he's such an old school player. He is the perfect guy to be playing back in the 1980s when batting average was everything and contact was everything. Nobody cared about walk rate back then. Nobody cared about WRC plus, obviously, back then. Although it's funny I say that. I say Arraez is such an old school player as if he wasn't putting up a high weighted runs created plus. He still was. He was over 130 the last 2 years. So all the contact hitting he does still leads to a ton of offensive production. Hence why he makes a lot of sense for the Mariners. A whole lot of sense.
And you have the pieces to trade for him, and the production you would lose in the starting rotation, you would hopefully make up in the lineup, and it would make you overall a more balanced team. You would not only go more towards your contact approach, but it does not limit the damage as well. It's great. It's affordable. I don't know many teams, if the price is going to stay the same for Luis Arraez, that could actually swing a trade like this, unless the Twins just want to trade Pablo Lopez back.
And even if the Mariners were to trade an arm, let's say it again, you could make up for it by signing Blake Snell. Thank you. I'm just saying, you could absolutely do that. Now, I should point out, I think we have to at least identify some of the weaknesses of Arraez. We have to at least acknowledge he's a really bad defender, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Not an issue. He hits a lot. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully Perry Hill will just work with him. And even if he's not playing Gold Glove defense, if he even got back to league average defense at second base, yeah, you take it with the bat. He's still a 3.5, 4-win guy.
His range stinks, but DRS thinks he's actually an above average defender, or probably about average. I'd say +4s in the average range. So okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I guess outs above average doesn't like him because of his range. I never know. Maybe OAA is the better stat to use for outfielders and DRS is the better one to use for infielders. Maybe.
You'd like both, but the Mariners are not trading for Luis Arraez for him to play a spectacular defense at second. And no. I believe he plays some first as well, if they need him to.
Yeah, he probably would, especially if Ty France needs a day off. Luke Raley can play first too, but yeah, if you need Arraez to play first, he could play first. They should do it. I don't know what it's really going to cost. I'm not sure Arraez really gets traded in the end. This could end up being nothing, saying, oh, we'll listen to offers, and the Marlins don't move him. But if he was really out there, yeah, I'd go do it in a heartbeat.
I'm wondering what Luis Arraez's reaction would be when he finds out the Mariners don't want to pay him $20 million next year in arbitration. Because fun fact, Luis Arraez has gone to arbitration with the Marlins twice because they haven't been able to agree on a number either of his 2 seasons in Miami. And I would imagine that doesn't leave a great taste in his mouth when the franchise that trades for him is like, yeah, actually, you're not worth enough money. And he's going from one cheap franchise to another slightly less cheap franchise. So don't set your expectations too high there, Luis.
But we will say he's not a guy you have to worry about regarding the T-Mobile Park factor because players like Teoscar Hernandez, who rely on power, affected him last year. Singles play anywhere. So who cares where Luis Arraez is hitting baseballs? He played in Minnesota. He can hit in Seattle.
It's fine with me. He would fit right in.